Okay, it is 1:03 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have quorum. It's Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. Onaunathon, Chair of the Council. I'm going to go next to Robin.
Robin Kay, currently on the island of Lanai.
Thanks, Robin. Tessie.
Tessie Kinnaman, Kauai.
Thanks, Tessie. Rachel.
Rachel Sprague calling from the island of Lanai.
Thanks, Rachel. Maka'ala.
Maka'ala Kaumawana, I'm on Kauai.
Thanks, Maka'ala. Michelle. Oh, Michelle, we don't have any audio from you.
No?
Yes. Okay.
Michelle Lefebvre on the island of Hawaii.
Thanks, Michelle. Don.
It's like that game show, you know. Be prepared to call your island. Don Higger Nordblom on the island of Maui.
Thanks, Don.
Yeah.
Ron. Ron, you're on mute as well. Okay, I'll come back to you, Ron. Mike, go ahead. Oh, Mike, you're on mute. Okay. Ron and Mike. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Merry Christmas, folks.
Merry Christmas. Okay, so Mike Tulang, Ron, you back or? Okay, well, Ron Terry is here from Hawaii Island. He's having issues with his audio. But again, we do have quorum, so I'll go next to ERP staff, or Mary Alice, go ahead.
Mary Alice Evans, Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, and
Tom Eisen, a planner with the Environmental Review Program. And there's two other staff that are listening in remotely. And you see the two cards for ERP staff and ERP staff too.
Okay, thank you. Mary's still connecting. So Royce, if you don't mind just going ahead and introducing yourself for the record.
Hi, this is Royce Shiroma from the County of Hawaii Office of Housing.
Thanks, Royce. And Anne, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, Ann Bailey with the Office of Housing and Community Development based in the Kona office.
Thanks, Anne. I see Mary's on now. Mary, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sorry, I had to, I'm in somebody else. Anyway, I had to put on earbuds. I couldn't do hands-free for some reason. Okay, I'm in a parking lot. Oh, Mary Bashir from Hawaii Island. Sorry.
Thanks, Mary. Okay.
Oh, now, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, it was in safe driving mode, even though I'm sitting in my office. And yeah. Okay, here I am. Thanks. Ron Terry, Big Island.
Great. All right. And last but certainly not least, Alison Kato.
Alison Kato, Deputy Attorney General.
Okay, great. Thank you folks very much. All right, so first thing up on the agenda, we'll go ahead and actually, if you folks don't mind if we take items out of order, since we do have some folks from OHCD here, if we take item number 5 first, the exemptions committee update. All right, Michelle, is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
If there were any objections, but didn't hear any.
I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks. We had our exemption committee meeting today, and OHCD was in attendance. They provided us a list.
Michelle, can you speak up a little bit? Coming in softly over here.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can you hear me better now?
No.
No.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. I can hear you through my speaker, but I'll talk through the microphone. That's fine. Exemption committee met today, and we discussed OHCD's exemption list that they submitted to the council for review and concurrence. We discussed it internally at the November meeting and invited OHCD to our meeting this month, and they attended. We had a few questions for them. We worked through, I think, about 5 or 6 edits to the list. We exchanged emails before the meeting to propose some minor edits, and OHCD was fine with those edits. We discussed them today at the meeting, and OHCD is fine to make all those edits. So they were linked to the full council meeting. I guess I'd like to open it up for discussion if anyone else on the full council has any comments on their list. We could discuss those now.
Hey, Michelle, do you mind just giving a brief bullet point list of the proposed edits, since what we have? Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. So the list edits that we discussed, in one instance, under the type 2 list, we seawalls were listed under replacement or reconstruction, and consistent with how the council has been handling that in lists recently. We discussed, well, first, were there any seawalls that OHCD was currently maintaining? And the answer was no. That being the case, and that they don't intend to be maintaining those, or if they did, they wouldn't be doing it as an exemption. We discussed removing that from the list. And they were fine with that edit. Under type 3, part 2, number 5, we did a slight rewording of that exemption to sort of capture the intent of the meaning more, so that it now reads to, this is a construction type 3. This would be rehabilitation of non-residential structures, including office and maintenance buildings, storage buildings, recreational and community facilities, food or donation distribution facilities, and homeless resource centers, parking structures and garages, retaining walls, and other slopes stabilization structures, excluding the replacement or construction of new seawalls, and walls and trash enclosures that would not, 1, result in a change in size or capacity by more than 20%, or involve changes in land use. So it's a little bit of just restructuring of the exemption, and then changing the and to or. Really, those were the big changes in that one. The next was type 6, part 1, 1A. We just had a discussion about reservoirs. So this was the exemption read structures such as buildings, sheds, warehouses, storage tanks, reservoirs, and similar structures. And again, the committee just wanted to know if there were any reservoirs currently being maintained by OHCD, or that they, were considering as part of demolition, and there were none. And since they didn't anticipate that being an activity in the future, they were okay to delete reservoirs. There just being, in some cases, times where reservoirs, are important to local communities, and so they were okay with removing reservoirs from the exemption. The next one was another type 6, part 1, 2A. And it had read retaining walls and other slope stabilization structures. And this was a demolition exemption. So the question was just raised, what kind of retaining walls would be removed, and what could the implications be to removing those retaining walls, just thinking about that as an exemption. But OHCD said that after thinking about it, they would move it from a type 1 to a type 2, part 1 to part 2 exemption, realizing that by taking out a retaining wall or stabilizing structure, right, there may be sort of environmental impacts that could come out of that action. So they were fine with moving that from part 1 to part 2. The next one was type 6, part 1, 2D. Again, part 1 demolition action, and it was the fuel, gas, propane storage, collection, and distribution system removal. And we just had a discussion about moving that from part 1 to part 2, which already talks about the removal of hazardous waste material. So again, the fuel seemed to fall more into that part 2 category rather than part 1, and OHCD was fine with that edit. And the last one was type 9, part 1.3, and it was just an editorial. It was adding of a comma after so that the clause in the middle would add a comma following it, but acquisition, but not improvement of real property for public use. So those were the edits, and OHCD was fine with making all of those. And so the exemption committee, well, I guess let me stop there and see if anybody had any questions.
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions from the council members on the proposed amendments to the list? Go ahead, Mike.
Just a question on the situation when we had the marine plane crash into Kaneohe Bay. What are the conditions there that will force us to have the Marines pay for everything?
Good question. I don't, that doesn't have to deal with OHCD's list. So I'm not too sure what the response to that would be to get them to pay. Are you talking about pay for restoration of the reef?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, why don't we push that thought later, because that's not on topic for this particular agenda, but okay, we can kind of revisit that later, just as a discussion of current events. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mike. Any other questions on OHCD's exemption list? And OHCD, you folks don't deal with the reef at all, right? You guys are all on land, so okay. Yeah.
Great. Well, we voted as a committee to bring the list to the council for approval to publish for public review for 15 days. So hearing no comments, is there a motion? Can I get a motion to approve the list for publication? For public
yes, I think when we have a recommendation out of committee, right, we don't need a motion, right?
Okay.
So is that correct, Allison? I think that's what we've done in the past, right? Okay. So yeah, I believe that's the case. Allison, if I'm wrong, let me know.
Sorry, I missed a little bit of the meeting because it froze. It says I have an unstable connection.
Oh, okay. My question.
I was wondering why no one was moving for a bit.
Oh no. Okay. Well, the recommendation out of the exemption committee is to recommend that OHCD's exemption list be published in the environmental notice for 15 days. I think just procedurally in the past, if I recall correctly, when we have a recommendation out of committee, we don't need a formal motion or a second, right? I think because that's the recommendation. If I'm not correct, let me know. Or if you just prefer us to do motion plus second, we can do that as well.
I think you can go with whatever is your past practice.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think we need the second, because since we have the recommendation out of committee. Any further discussion from the members on the recommendation to publish the list? Okay.
I should clarify, it's published list with amendments, and OHCD is going to be sending us the amended list with the ones I just walked through on the call.
Correct. Yeah. Publish the list with the amendments that Michelle just went over. That's correct. Okay, well, Royce and Ann, thank you folks so much again for working on this list. So all those in favor, since we don't have any further discussion, please raise your hand and keep it up. And if you're, so let me see. Okay, it is unanimous for the council members that we have, so I won't do a roll call. All right, so like we talked about in committee, right, we'll go ahead and you folks make the amendments, and Tom, the deadline again was the 18th, right, for publication on the 23rd of December. Yeah, and then our next meeting will be January 9th, but I don't think we're going to make the cutoff. So we'll let you know when our February meeting is. Whatever the first Tuesday of the month is, that'll be our February meeting. We'll bring you folks back following, whatever public comments, that'll go back to you folks for review if there are any, and if any other council members have comments after reviewing, you can go ahead and submit it through the public comment process. And then we'll go from there.
Thanks so much, Ann and Royce. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, council members. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you, folks. All right. Michelle, any other status updates from exemption committee?
Yes, we also discussed an amendment to a list that had already been concurred from the Commission on Water Resource Management. CWRM's list was concurred on by the council in 2021, but they are proposing one addition. We didn't really get to talk about it much in the November meeting, but we discussed it today, and we're going to invite CWRM to discuss it a little bit further in our January meeting. So I guess stay tuned for the results of that discussion. But if we if we decide to move forward with that list, then we'll bring it to the full council at that time, and then we'd go through the process again to concur with the amended list.
Thank you, Michelle. Does anybody have any questions for Michelle or the exemption committee? All right, well, thanks, Michelle. Okay, we're gonna go back to agenda item number 2, Mary Alice, for the interim director's update. Oh, there.
Oh, can you hear me, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we've been busy this last month. Part of the office is working on the Maui wildfires state recovery support functions. As you guys are aware, there are 3 levels of government that are involved. There's FEMA for the federal government that brings the federal family of departments and services to the table to assist Maui in its recovery. This is the long-term recovery. The emergency support functions also have the same federal, state, and county partners, but they focus on the immediate needs, for housing, power, medical care, all of the various things that have to happen the day after the disaster. The long-term recovery has 7 different groups with a lot of overlap in their, or we could say synergies in their assignments. They have housing. Let's see if I have a listing here. Community planning and capacity building. That one is the planning department's Garrett Smith is the lead on that for the county. Housing, which has HHFDC is the lead for the state. Infrastructure, that's going to be the deputy director for transportation, Robin Shishido for the state. The economic recovery is led by Jimmy Tokioka, the DBED director for the state side, and Luana for the county. And then public health is for Department of Health is Judy Kern, and social services is Joe Campos, the deputy for the State Department of Social Services, Human Services. And then for natural resources and cultural resources, Deputy Director of DLNR, Laura Kaakua, is the lead for the state. So we've been meeting weekly with the FEMA lead and our county leads, working on these long-term issues, many of which will be funded by federal funds, and some of which are simply working out expedited permitting issues. And I think that's where the Environmental Advisory Council's interest might lie, is whether the emergency proclamation, which suspends 343, this is only Maui wildfires, not affordable housing, which does not suspend 343. What happens when a permanent facility is, a temporary facility that has a longer life than the emergency proclamation? Does it become illegal the day after the emergency proclamation terminates? And this is a concern for the county and for the state. So we're trying to discuss how to create a legal basis for some of these important recovery functions, say including housing, that need to have a legal basis after the emergency proclamations expire. So haven't reached a conclusion, and would be very happy to hear from the council in terms of providing advice to the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development on that issue. One of the things we are looking at is perhaps creating a contingent non-conforming use statute that is triggered by an emergency proclamation at the state level, leaving the county ordinances in place and operative in any other circumstances. So that's something we've kind of been thinking about.
That's interesting. Are you looking for comments now? I have some comments on that, thoughts.
Yes,
or
yes,
okay.
Very much welcome comments.
I think generally, and others on this meeting can correct me, you know, we have talked about the emergency, you know, how does emergency proclamation fit into from the 343 standpoint, right? The thought has always been that, you know, where there is an emergency declared and you need to do something, fix a road, build a facility, whatnot, you do that without, at least from the 343 side, do the 343 at that time. But Ron will probably know the best, right? I think the thought is that 343, you still do it, but you just do it later, right? It's not that you don't do it at all. It's that you do it later. So from the 343 side, I think that has been our understanding of the process as applies to chapter 343. So
that's for stuff that doesn't have proclamations.
For stuff that doesn't have a proclamation. Okay.
Right.
Thanks for correcting me. So that was just my thought from the 343 side. Let me think a little bit about your contingent non-conforming, because that's more from the zoning side, and how do you let these structures remain? So in these cases, I guess you folks, the structures don't conform to normal zoning. That's why you're having to do a non-conforming use.
They may not. For instance, putting housing in a parking lot that was, you know, designed as a parking lot, but can hold a temporary, you know, housing thing that might have a longer life than the emergency proclamation. That's one possibility. So that'd be a non-conforming use. Maybe you build housing with 0 lot lines in a zone that does not allow for 0 lot lines. That would be a non-conforming lot. And say maybe you do multifamily in a single family zone, that would be a non-conforming use. So until the, you know, perhaps, you know, the county council may want to adopt, amend their, you know, their land use ordinance or their zoning code, you would have a structure that could have a period of not having some kind of a legal basis for existing. And that opens up the potential for, you know, almost everything that you build in Hawaii has both proponents and opponents. And so it would leave the facility or structures, you know, vulnerable to a cloud as to whether, even though they were built legally under an emergency proclamation, when the emergency proclamation terminates, do they become illegal until, say, a county council can adopt amendments to their own zoning code, building code, you know, various different ordinances.
Okay, I'll think on that a little bit more. Let's see if I have any other comments. What about other council members? Go ahead, Mafala.
The only thing that occurs to me is, I know that in some places, as we used to have in the old Chinatowns, so there was business during the day and the parking lots were for them. And then when that was piled and the residents parked there and lived upstairs kind of thing. Parking lots used to have a kind of a nighttime cutoff, you know, so I can see impacts to the surrounding neighborhood just by virtue of a different use. The other thing I can see is because it's an emergency proclamation, for me, it's just muddies the water. But if there was some termination language, some at least thought about the duration of that different use under an emergency, and your example is very helpful, Mary Alice. Under that example, I can see a different response from the surrounding neighborhood to a different use if it had some sort of end date.
Yeah. Thank you, Makaala. That's exactly the kind of advice I was hoping the council members could give us.
I'm just so sorry that the need is there, but it's again, it's an opportunity for us to address some of these issues that we should be addressing for all of ourselves, for, you know, in case of, right? So we're all going to learn together and do the best we can for Maui, but think about what it would be like if it was in our own backyard. And housing is not going to go away, and it's not just because of Maui.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
This, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but this is, Mary Alice, is very germane to what Rep. Lowen and Senator Gabbard asked us to do, which is to play an increased role in advocacy and counsel. And I think, you know, we need to talk about how do we do that? How do we structure those conversations so it's not just an individual, not that it's bad to have had individual comments, but how do we as a council deal with an issue of such statewide significance? And maybe it means putting that specific question on the agenda for the January meeting. I'm just thinking out loud, Winona. Yeah, I mean, you also heard them say, we would like you guys to play an expanded role in advising, as is part of our responsibility.
Thanks, Robin. That's a good point. Mary Alice, did you have any other updates you wanted to share with the council?
We have this one, I think, will be of interest to Dawn. We've been sitting in on Zoom meetings with Maui County on the Olowalu landfill site. And of course, there are, you know, again, like anything in Hawaii, there's a, you know, wide spectrum of perspectives and views on that. And landfills, you know, do not suddenly magically, you know, disappear when, you know, emergency proclamation terminates. So Maui County is trying to figure out how to ensure that 30-year clean closure requirement of EPA can be met after the emergency proclamation terminates. Now, Maui County has the ability to issue their own emergency proclamations, and they have one for the Maui wildfires for temporary structures. So that, you know, that's an effort to find a, and I apologize, but I didn't, you know, read it carefully enough to know if it suspends 343, but I don't know that they can, because they're the county and that's a state law. So they may only be suspending to the extent necessary county ordinances, like building permit ordinances and things like that in their temporary structures one. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that the council can provide advice on, because anytime you suspend our laws that provide for disclosure of environmental impacts and potential mitigations, you have a situation where you're trying to balance, you know, a response to a disaster with the public's concern about, you know, impacts. And so finding that balance, but also not exposing those response actions to liability, which would, I think, I'm even seeing some of that already, where there may be a reluctance to take an action that it may be warranted given the need, but that might there isn't currently a legal framework for those things that are permanent facilities. I wonder, Chair, if I could ask Ron if there are any examples of that from the 2018 lava flows that Hawaii County put in place or considered.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. I didn't want to interrupt earlier, but I do need to remind everyone that any discussion amongst the board needs to be properly on the agenda.
Okay.
So I'm a little concerned that discussion is happening that's not been on the agenda.
Okay.
Sorry. I just didn't want to interrupt earlier, but because it's continuing.
It would be great to agendize this for the next meeting.
Yeah, I can. Mary Alice, if you don't mind for going forward, giving me bullet points and what your updates will be. I know sometimes you don't have it that far in advance. Yeah. But I can certainly agendize these specific topics. So yeah, and I don't know if you have any others that you want me to agendize. So I'll make notes for January.
Yeah, I may not.
I'm sorry. I just need to ask a question of Allison.
Mm-hmm.
The director's update can't be an update?
It's not specific enough as to the topics that are going to be discussed. So she can give an update, but board deliberation or discussion on it generally isn't allowed unless the specific topics are included.
I would argue that what we're really trying to do is clarify what her issues are. So I kind of agree with where I think Mary's going, Allison, and that is, I think we're not voting, we're not making any decisions. We're still having a conversation based on the executive on the director's report. I disagree. Sorry.
I mean, I've given my opinion before on OIP's guidance. Even if there's no decision or vote, generally a board cannot discuss matters that aren't specifically on the agenda. So, I mean,
that's
just my opinion.
That is so restrictive to an issue that is so timely. I understand what you're saying, and I respect you're telling us your perspective. I just want to make it noted that I totally disagree.
I mean, if you want more further specific guidance, you can request that from OIP.
Yeah, it's not Allison's fault. Thank you, Allison, for reminding us of the law. It is difficult sometimes since some of these things are live items. So nobody is blaming Allison. She's doing her job. But grievances are certainly noted. So I will add specific bullet points on these topics for January so that we can discuss them further. Why don't we proceed in this manner where Mary Alice poses her questions to the council? I will add them as more detailed agenda items for discussion for January, and we'll go from there. Does that work, Allison? Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mary Alice, any other specific questions? So your first one was, really dealing with how can considering what the working groups are looking at in terms of extended permitting for structures that are essentially would be considered non-conforming, right? I mean, under a normal basis. So that's one. The other is, asking for specific examples in other emergency situations, such as the 2018 eruption, and how can the council, really advise on these issues? Anything else?
Yeah, I want to add something. Maybe it would be helpful to ask the other departments how they dealt with past disaster in terms of, whatever these two items relate to. So for instance, for OCCL, when there's Iniki in Kauai, basically I think the department just approved the already existing permit that was in place, as long as it was backed up by the county planning department. And trust me, I know, because I was in those offices in those boxes looking for all those permits for other stuff years later. So I think other departments' review of how they've handled permitting would, on a statewide level, I would be interested to hear, you know, what they've done in terms of disaster after the fact building. Yeah. And thank you, Allison. I know it's really hard to, you know, but it's true, you know, general public, if they're not here, they can complain, and they would have reason to complain against us as well. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, Don. Mary Alice, anything else, any other questions you want to pose to the council on items you're working on?
No, I can't think of anything more now, but I will try to get you bullet points for your January meeting ahead of your deadline.
Thank you very much. All right, well, we can't have too much discussion on that, but any questions for Director? We typically do that. No, none right now. Okay, maybe some stuff will come up again in our legislative update. So thank you so much, Mary Alice, for sharing that.
You're welcome. All
right. Okay, next up, something a little boring, but it's review and approval of the November 2023 meeting minutes. Did everybody already get a chance to take a look at the meeting minutes? And if not, we can take a few minutes here. No, does anybody need a little bit of time? Okay, seems not. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, Maka'ala was first. And Mike, I'll take your second.
Second.
All right, so we're in discussion. Does anybody have any edits to the November 7th, 2023 meeting minutes? Okay. Nope. Well, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the November 7th, 2023 meeting minutes, please raise your hand and keep it up for now. And if folks aren't voting, then I am going to do a roll call. But it is unanimous of all the members present. Thank you very much. And sorry, we were in the middle of discussion. So November 7th minutes are approved. Steph, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Steph joined at about 1:30.
Sure. Aloha, everyone. Steph Dunbarco.
Thank you, Steph. And Steph was included in that vote because she was here at 1:30. All right, thank you. Okay, next update. Mary, I'll turn it over to you for the INO committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Allison for nipping the conversation that was taking place via email. And I just want to go on record of saying, you'll know that I did not participate. I was receiving them, however, and I could see what your point was there, Allison, that there were too many of us in that chain. But that's one of the things that I think that's a perfect example of where the law fails to protect the citizens of Hawaii. I get the spirit of the law and all that, but we're trying to put on an educational forum for the community, and we can't do just normal housekeeping things that need to be done that you can't possibly agendize because you don't know they're going to happen. So that's just, those of you that weren't on the email don't know what I'm talking about, and that's okay. You don't need to. I just want to be on the record about that. We're down to the short strokes. Our next forum is this coming Monday, December 11th at 12 o'clock. Dawn has put together a great panel. Michelle is on that panel and is doing some wonderful research and preparatory work in ahead of time. Ron Terry has been helpful in the background via phone with her. And so Tom is going to be on the panel, and a gentleman, help me out here, Dawn. His initials are RS, but I can't, Robert
Raymond.
Raymond Sever.
And who, by the way, would like to put in his application for a board member.
Yay.
Thanks. Paul and I talked him into it.
Good for you guys. That's wonderful.
It was an easy sell. It was easy.
It was an easy sell.
I want to acknowledge that we asked him for his bio, and he sent his resume, which is a decent, respectable resume. but it was so cute when he said, well, here's my resume, but my real claim to fame is, and he talked about his wife. So I think he's a cool dude. So anyway, if I've ever met him, I don't remember him, but I was really had a lot of respect for his demeanor. So that's stay tuned for that panel discussion, that forum this coming Monday. I hope you're all going to be there. In the past, we've not had that many attendees from the EAC, so I'd like to correct that and have you all be there. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. We're not violating sunshine law by having you there. So please join us. And that will be our last forum for the year, and we'll figure out what we're going to do next year. And that's all I have to say right now. Unless you feel, if you think we should talk about what that email was about, I'm happy to talk about it because I do believe it fits under the agendized information.
Thanks, Mary. I'll have to defer to Allison on that, or whether that just comes up at the forum itself. Not, the topic of the email.
Okay.
Right? I don't know, Allison, thoughts on that? It's not agendized, so that's why I'm hesitating to say any more than that. But it'll be on topic.
Well, it's part of the discussion and planning for future forums, and that's our agendized.
I would think that's probably okay.
For Mary to talk about the email and what it said?
Well, I mean, discussion of and planning for future forums, technically it is a future forum.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the item that really needs to be discussed is not that person's specific grief or idea, let's call it an idea, but our responsibility as myself and chair in kind of running the forum and then the 3 forum panelists, we all need to be prepared to address difficult situations. And
sorry,
so,
yes, that's what I meant. Not the that particular
Yeah.
individual's
question. Right. I thought I was reading your mind, Allison.
I can jump in. I can jump in, Mary, and I was the guilty party for continuing the conversation by email, and I apologize. But now that we can discuss it here, it was really just where our sidelines, are going to be for the forum. What came up was a very specific example by an interested member of the public who wants to attend the forum, and when Ron and I discussed the forum and what the council, what I can do as the exemption committee chair and how I represent, how I can represent the exemption process and the council's role, in exemptions, and then, what Tom can do from the ERP side, and talking about process, and then what HDOC guy, no, I just blanked his name, Randall? No.
Raymond,
thank you. What Raymond, can provide, examples, in how his agency, how HDOT, airports, has run, certain projects through their exemption list, and that's really the boundary, should be the boundary of the forum, and it shouldn't be, and just setting up ahead of time that we're not there to sort of take the public's examples or projects or scenarios and run them through the process, since that really doesn't fall in any of our responsibility, as the council or as ERP to make a judgment. Truly, that call lies with the agency, and not with us. And so, I think just setting that up, ahead of time as we get started, and then just holding that boundary during the forum, hopefully will manage those types of comments.
Well, and that's what I wanted to assure you is that I'm not uncomfortable, and I'm not rude about it. I'm just explaining that's outside of what our forum was designed to do. Thank you very much. Just nip it in the bud. And I know how to delete a person from a meeting if I have to.
Are you gonna say that? Like you're gonna be deleted? We should
No.
Fair notice.
Well, if he pushes the issue, I'll tell him, I'm sorry, sir, we aren't discussing that. And if you don't want to stop talking about it, I'll stop you from talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be
Ron,
polite.
what were you gonna say?
I think that it would be okay if he brings it up there to acknowledge that the questions he's raising are very interesting. And that they might be a really interesting topic for a future forum. And especially if there's other people who are interested in it, the boundaries of discretionary consents and exemptions and actions and that sort of thing. It is quite distinct from what we're talking about though today. And it'd be the kind of item that I'd like to see, attorneys weigh in on, and they would be part of our AGs and that sort of thing would be part of the panel. And if there's enough interest, we might someday organize a forum like that.
That's a win-win, Ron. Thank you.
Mary, I was gonna say, I was like, maybe don't delete anybody from the meeting, but I know you can mute somebody. You know what I mean? They should still be able to observe.
Okay.
No, I don't know that we should kick them out altogether, right? Just mute them. Go ahead, Steph.
Aren't there existing best practices?
For managing meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I think there are, right? I mean, you can go ahead and kind of set those out. I mean, the host has control. I think in these types of forums, you can actually mute everybody until you're ready to unmute them, right? And so I know the host has that type of control, but I guess I would just be cautious of, well, I guess in a situation, somebody could be physically removed from a meeting if they are disruptive, right? So yeah, I mean, on Zoom, you have less of that problem. I think you could just mute them and turn their video off and still let them listen.
And back to substance on this, I'm sorry. The gentleman asked 3 questions. And I think we are going to be discussing his first question, which was public notice of EA exemptions. Okay. That's part of what we're doing. The other 2 questions are not, just to be clear.
Okay.
Thanks, Steph. I see that. Yeah, are you looking for a written policy, Steph?
No, I'm looking for best practices, and I would think that would exist such, and maybe it doesn't, but I would think that it does, such that this isn't something that the EAC needs to necessarily chew on or regrettably get itself in a position where we have done this wrong, right? But managing the public in a digital setting is super challenging, or can be, as we've witnessed a little bit here, it sounds like some of you. And so it may be worth, particularly given the role that these forums have played for our council, and really commend INO for doing that this is an area that we may lean into and need to look at more carefully and in our policies and procedures type situation.
I think it's important to make a distinction between a board meeting, whether it's advisory or executive, and an educational forum. So I think the chair has the authority in a board meeting to manage the meeting and determine whether somebody is actually disruptive or simply raising an issue that may not be on the agenda or something of that nature, or exceeding the 2-minute limit if there is one, that kind of thing. Educational forums may have a very different in terms of best practices stuff, there's such a range of what might be unacceptable or acceptable in terms of participation that, usually we know exactly what to do in the extremes, if somebody is Zoom bombing, a board meeting. But it becomes a question of judgment when it's something that is, there just may not be a policy in educational forums for every possible thing that could arise. So I think that whoever is moderator, that's not the chair, it's a moderator, it's a facilitator, should have the ability to make a judgment call.
Sorry, do you have the ability on your Zoom to create a distinction between panelists and attendees? When we have informational
Probably not.
presentations at AGs, we usually have the actual panelists versus the attendees.
Allison, I think the webinar subscription is slightly more expensive. And it's useful when you want to create two different rooms, one of panelists and one of attendees, and then your IT person can promote people from the attendees into the panelists one at a time with control over muting and unmuting them. But I don't think we have that level of subscription for the EAC's Zoom account.
Yeah, those are good considerations. Yeah, I mean, I guess at the outset, you know, whoever's hosting, Mary, I think you'll probably, Mary or Don will be doing the opening remarks, right? You can, you know, really frame what the panel, what the forum is supposed to do. But I do agree with Mary Alice that educational forums, which I think this one is supposed to be educational, informational, that's, you know, by its nature, folks are going to ask questions that are somewhat on topic and maybe a little off topic, but related, right? So, I mean, if the panelists are comfortable responding to it, I don't see an issue with having a discussion on it, right? Because you folks, the panelists, are kind of the experts. But if it's something where folks are not comfortable, I mean, you know, find a way to kind of say that, hey, listen, we got to think about this a little bit, you know, I'm not comfortable responding to this now. You know, perhaps we'll consider this for a future forum, right? To not totally shut somebody's idea down, to appear as if, you know, like, hey, we're receptive, we're listening, people have interest in this, people have questions, but, you know, this forum wasn't meant to address it, so, you know, we can consider it for a future forum if that's appropriate, and if not, I mean, I trust your folks' judgments on how to address that when those types of questions come up in a forum.
Tom, you probably have a lot of experience fielding, you know, questions from folks that, you know, call ERP, and you know, I think you've got a pretty good way of handling when something's in your realm and when something's not in your realm to make a call. So I think it's great that you're on the panel to provide.
I usually end up deferring to the agency because that's where the authority lies. So this poor guy from DOT, which actually is the agency that is at the core of that issue, more
different
highways
division,
than
but
airports.
yeah.
So I don't know if he has any familiarity, but I kind of redirect the conversation to where it really needs to go.
Yeah, I think you do that really well, Tom. So I'm glad you're on the panel and can help us, you know, do that as it arises, you know, in addition to setting it up at the beginning, but as we have to maybe do that throughout. I'm glad you'll be there.
Okay, anything else from INO?
That's all we have. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mary. Any other questions for INO from council members? Okay. All right, thanks so much. So we'll move on to item number 6. I'll hand it over to you, Steph, for the annual report committee update. We actually did exemptions out of order before you came, so that's why you're up next. Sorry about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so here we go, guys. We did it. It's December and we have a final annual report for 2023, and I'm hopeful you all had a chance to take a look at it. We did a little refining of the document between now and our last meeting, and I appreciate those of you who helped with that and the comments you all made. So I'm happy to open it up to discussion, but really what we're hoping for today is to approve this as our 2023 annual report. Maka'ala.
Thank you. I read it carefully. I think it was an amazingly well done job of striking a balance between getting some content and some detail and brevity. We all know what a challenge it is to get people to read a lot of words, and I thought it did a very, very good job. I really enjoyed, however, the flyer for the forum being included as some kind of a graphic break, but also the information. And I was kind of hoping, I don't know if there even was a flyer for the second one, the next forum after that. But if there was, I'd sure love to stick them both in there. It was just sort of the only graphics, offered, and they play such an important role in readability. But well done, thank you.
Thanks, Maka'ala. There was another graphic in here, but because I know you guys are such rock stars and have all of the, public facing graphics, I had popped it in like before, I think, strategic planning, and the context seemed a little weird. So we went back with just the one graphic. Yeah, but thank you. I agree. It's nice to break it up.
Would offer a graphic from exemptions, but it would just maybe be like a collage of the lists we've concurred with that year, and that would just be more text. So I'm not sure if that would help.
Yeah. I mean, Tom, if you have any nice stock photos for the notice that you want to plop in.
Yeah, good idea.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. We got all the issues of the notice. We have pictures, images of them.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't necessarily need to be the notice itself, but just one of the images you use on that first page,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do folks think about putting that in at kind of the beginning or wherever? Stephanie, I'll let you choose where you think placement of just a pretty graphic might go.
Sure. Tom, that'd be great if you have something and it'd be easy to send to me. I'd be happy to pop it in there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Consider that.
Any other comments, questions, revisions to the annual report?
The question about distribution, how will we share this with the world? There are specific people in the world that need to receive it, but there may be others that we can notify it's available. And I just don't know, have we thought about that? And is that our responsibility? Mary Alice, is that going to be your 18th hat?
Chair, I do think that we could use our TEN MailChimp mailing list to get the annual report out. We could also put a link to it in our fall winter Office of Planning and Sustainable Development newsletter. There's some overlap in those two mailing lists, but not that much. So that gets it to a wide variety of clearly interested people. And then, of course, nowadays we can send them to the legislators and their staff by email as well. But we can also make paper copies that then become a way to introduce yourself to legislators. If you are carrying a copy to hand to them, and it's an opening for discussion. Let's see, and of course, because it's required by law, we have a regular distribution process that involves sending it to DBED, sending it to the state libraries. I think a copy goes to the governor's office. Copies do go to the legislators as official, the Legislative Reference Bureau, that kind of thing. So there's the informal distribution, which is as broad as we might possibly make it. And then there's the formal distribution, which is set by policy, by law, and by governor's office.
I think that's great, Mary Alice. Thank you. I think, Onana, there would probably be personalized with your signature to the members of Lowen and Gabbard's committees, just as a specific connection that is from us. I think that would be well worth the time. And I'll be glad to help you draft anything, but I think it should come from you personally.
Yeah, that's fine for the unofficial. I mean, if the council could please ask OPSD for assistance with the official transmission that we need to do by law. I don't know how folks feel. And Robin, that's fine. We can do a transmittal to folks, you know, Gabbard and Lowen and their committees, Senator Gabbard and Representative Lowen and their committees. As for the rest of the unofficial, I mean, how are folks feeling about putting it in, you know, OPSD's newsletter or one of those other options?
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
It's easy and it's there and it's appropriate.
Dawn, you had your hand up. Thanks, Steph.
Oh, yeah, they do a great job on the newsletter. So I think I read the newsletter.
How do I get on the list to get your newsletter? I'm curious.
Oh, we would be thrilled to add you to the list. All the members of the council.
Oh, no.
I'm on your list already. I would also suggest we include
Add me,
our.
please.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
You guys aren't on the list.
I would suggest we include our elevator speech that we all worked so hard on, so that a lot of people won't know who we are and where this is coming from without some specific connection to what's the EAC.
So we did in this revised version for comments from the last meeting, incorporate, you know, our elevator speech, not the whole thing, but the appropriate portions in the introduction.
Okay.
Yeah, so it gives a little bit more meat as to what's the EAC, what do we do? So that should all be on really the first page.
I got it. I see it. Thank you.
Okay, so are we in agreement in terms of distribution? Thank you, Mary Alice and OPSD and ERP for assisting with the official transmission. So mechanics wise, once we get it in final, Steph, thank you for, you know, gonna add the one more graphic so it doesn't take too much of your time. Get the final to Tom, presumably, is that correct? And
then
okay?
Tom, you can assign it to either Kaylee or to Kim.
Yes, send it to our main email address. I'm going on vacation soon, so depending when it comes in, I'll get it or they'll get it directly.
Right.
Okay. And then you folks will take it from there in terms of the official transmission and adding it to the newsletter.
Yeah.
And then Robin and I will work with some targeted distribution to, you know, legislators. And then of course, members of the council, once it's in final, I guess what we can do is maybe circulate it to everybody and you can go ahead and, you know, distribute to your folks as you wish.
Tom, ask them if they would just CC me so I can see it. Because otherwise it might just go to Jen and it might not.
Oh, right. Yeah. So when you email it to the ERP email address, be sure to CC Mary Alice.
Yeah. Sure thing. And should I do both a PDF and a Word doc? Or is a PDF fine?
Generally, PDF is fine. We don't need the Word doc would be to do further editing and hopefully.
And nobody's touching it.
Yes, you send the finished thing in. So
we're done. Okay. Okay, can do. And then I don't know, Nana, you want me to send it obviously to you and then how we decide to disperse it within the council?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Folks should be able to have it and share it as they'd like.
Right. Yeah, I think that works. Thank you.
Yep.
Do I have a motion? Robin? Okay, and Rachel is the second. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the 2023 EAC annual report as amended. And the only amendment is going to be to add the photo. All those in favor, please hold your hands up. All right. It is unanimous with all of the members present. Thank you folks very much. Steph, thank you for leading the charge on the annual report, and thanks to the annual report committee and to ERP and OPSD for helping us transmit it to the people that we need to. Okay, Great. Thank you, folks. Thanks, Steph. All right, moving on to agenda item number 7, strategic planning committee update. So Robin, I'll turn it over to you. And I did put up, strategic planning and a legislative committee updates. They might kind of mesh together. So I'll leave that to your discretion on how you want to present it too.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. If it's okay, I would think they'd be combined since they're connected. So I'll start off with the conversation we had with Representative Lowen and Senator Gabbard at 11 o'clock this morning. They were both as supportive as usual. We told them just a little bit about us in terms of working well with OPSD and the cooperation that we've been getting from Mary Alice and her crew. And also to be aware of some of the challenges we've had in filling the large number of vacancies we're going to have coming up as many of us term out. And so then we spent the rest of the conversation talking about what their priorities were and what issues they thought we should be helpful with. The Department of Environment will probably come up again. The first thing they both mentioned was cesspools, and they're going to need to focus on that. Rep. Lowen talked about electric vehicles, and energy efficiency is also being on the plate. The green fee is going to come back up. We think that there'll be some discussions about that. And then the Strategic Planning Committee might be able to help address their suggestion that we could be more active in providing advice. And that fits back to where we were earlier this morning. And so I think the Strategic Planning Committee might be the lead, and Onana, that's your call, but it might be good to have that committee meet and begin to talk about how do we best, what could we do to have a conversation within the EAC around cesspools, the Department of Environment, and green fees, for example.
Robin, if I can plug in here real quick, where the suggestion came up that the EAC play a bigger role in policy was on housing, actually, right? Too, and to what Mary Alice kind of updated us on, the legislators are also looking at, what can they do to get more housing quicker, looking at zoning and other things, right? And so really what the comment was that, the EAC could play a bigger role in policy and consultations in terms of what should the state and counties do, and providing, those balanced opinions, right? They want people with knowledge of the processes and being able to, there's going to be a lot of issues going forward. Of course, Maui's on the mind of everyone, right? And so that's a potential role for the council going forward in terms of, really taking on, a bigger part of our advisory role in advising not only OPSD, but maybe legislators as well, and working groups and whatnot on kind of these hot topic issues. Go ahead, Robin. If that wasn't accurate, let me know.
That's why you get the big bucks, Onana. That was much more accurate than my summation. I took it in a more general way. Onana is absolutely right. It was focused on housing. But I heard them say that they would be looking for an expanded role in advisory, which is our middle name. So we just have to figure out how to do that, how to fit it within what we're allowed to do and what we need to do. So that might be a conversation for one of our committees to deal with before the next full council meeting. They were very helpful. It was a very short meeting, 25 minutes. And I think that was it. Onana, any more highlights you want to raise?
Yeah, I think the other thing was, we did bring up INO committee and, the great forums that you folks have been working on. One of the topics when it came up to Department of the Environment was, there's a thought that there needs to be more buy-in from, really the administration, right? And kind of getting the word out. So certainly certain legislators are on board with it. So one suggestion that we floated, and it wasn't a clear, yes, we want you to do it, but, just for potential future forum, we did offer to the legislators that, hey, you know, we'd be happy to put on a forum, maybe discussing and opening that panel up to the wider, you know, audience, to members of the public and those folks that do attend our forums. So that's a potential topic for, I know, perhaps sometime next year, you know, if the bill comes out.
Senator Gabbard also referenced towards the end of the meeting a renewed interest in hemp, and some information he's been getting and talking about tiny homes and a lot of issues. I think clearly we began, Onana was very diplomatic in stating up front we weren't asking for any money, that we knew the ledge was going to have some difficulty with any kinds of new requests for funding. So.
Yeah, and the discussion on hemp was, I think it was connected to, you know, increasing hemp growing and using the materials to 3D print tiny homes. That's been explored by this gentleman. I think the name was Jeff Whaling. He's said he was head of the National Hemp Association or something. So could be, you know, people are looking into a lot of different things, right? So that was an interesting, I don't know much about turning hemp into a material to 3D print, but something that's being looked at.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. So it was it was our annual check-in.
Well, any questions? Go ahead, Dawn.
Well, I'd be happy to have these additional forums on topics that I know nothing about. I do know hemp is, I think, fireproof, and it's very light and durable as a building material. But I think they can, how do you want them? Maybe we should put something in the environmental notice and say, if you're interested in doing a forum, and maybe in the OPSD newsletter as well, you know, your monthly newsletter, and say if you have topics, to direct them to ERP staff, and then we can create it, the forum. Does that sound about right?
No, you can't.
Yeah, so there's some feedback. Mary, is that good for you?
Our
'Cause we don't-
newsletter is not monthly. I have to apologize. We don't have the capacity to do that. So I think it's our goal is every 2 months, but I think we're hitting about every 3 months at this point.
Yeah. But I mean, if there's people who want to have us do forums, I'm fine with that. It's just we need them to kind of come to us with a topic, you know, and suggest people to be moving
Yeah,
targets
yeah.
with the panel.
It's also helpful if they have an educated panelist. I know Senator, I guess she was a rep, Cynthia Thielen is kind of an expert on hemp. She's quite fascinating to talk with about it. So
yeah, we raised
one
that.
of her relatives, might have even been a son, was had a company in Kansas that was growing hemp and experimenting with it. It was interesting that Kansas was willing to embrace the growth of hemp and as a building material. And anyway, I don't want to go on about that now, but yeah. I think that to Dawn's point though, is it's not just about hemp, but if we could find a venue to tell people that we're here to put on forums, what do they want to hear about, you know?
Right.
We'll think about that. Tom, we'll write something for you to put in whatever is appropriate to send it out in.
Yeah.
No, that works. And like I said, I don't know that Senator Gabbard or Rep. Lowen were jumping on, you know, the council, putting on a forum specifically for Department of the Environment or whatnot. But we made the offer, you know, basically we wanted to see what their priorities were, right, and see how we can help them.
It's okay, Onana. You like to make work for us. We know.
No.
Well, I'm teasing.
Yeah.
Can't love those you can't tease.
Sorry. I don't mean to do more work, but if you are wanting for topics, it's a potential topic.
We would rather do something people want us to do than make busy work.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And not Mary, that you're busy work, but.
All right. Any other questions on that? Go ahead, Stephanie.
Not a question, just thank you both for having that conversation with Senator Gabbard and Rep. Lowen. And it's, you know, it's always great to get a pulse check on them, even though if we wish we could do it a little more often. And I also support, you know, the building and sort of evolution of the conversation around our advisory role within the strategic planning committee. I do think that makes a lot of sense, and offers, you know, a distinct sort of group and time and place in which to have those conversations and report back to the full council and build on it. So yeah, thank you. And maybe, you know, I'm thinking about the annual report, maybe this is a bit of a morphing for the EAC, right? Maybe it's an appropriate one. So happy to see that conversation potentially moving forward. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you know, to that point, I think it's reminding folks we're here because, you know, the big thing that we did were the rules, right? And so far so good. Maybe some tweaks in the future, you know, that might need to be done, but nothing major for now. But I can't remember the topic, Robin, but Rep. Lowen actually made a comment. There was something that they were looking at, and she's like, oh shoot, I should have reached out to you guys on this.
Yeah, it was one of the they have 7 working groups at the ledge, and one of them was coastal restoration, and she thought, oh, we should have been involved in that discussion.
Yeah, but I think, you know, the council just wasn't at the top of the mind of folks, but that kind of jogged her, like, oh yeah, I should, you know, you folks should have been at the table for this too. So yeah, you know, that's why, Robin, I know you suggested we should send our annual report to folks, kind of remind them that we're there, and you know that this is a potential role that we could help with, right? You know, in terms of, you have a broad folks with very different backgrounds, different professions, different interests, but you know, coming together, and we're kind of a sounding board and in a little neat package for folks to use. All right. Well, you know, from that, so that's that was the mix of, you know, at least the update on potential legislation that we're going to see. Internally, last time we haven't identified anything specifically that, you know, we wanted to push forward this year, and we did tell Senator Gabbard and Rep. Lowen that we weren't asking for any changes to 341 or 343 this year, so a little bit less work on our plate in terms of bills that we are proposing. But of course, legislative committee will go ahead and continue to monitor, you know, things that do come up that we might have an interest in. So we'll see what happens with that. But anything else for strategic planning committee or legislative committee, Robin?
No.
I ask with that conversation, did Rep. Lowen bring up any specific issues? Well, she's brought up bills to change the ERP and specifically the website in the past couple of years. They haven't gone anywhere, but it seems to be an interest of hers, but she's never really discussed it with us. So I don't know if she's discussed it with you, what's in her mind, or if it'll come up again this time or not.
It didn't come up today.
Oh, it didn't. And I don't think it actually came up in past conversations either, but you're right, Tom, she has introduced those types of bills in the past. And I know we submitted testimony. I don't think there was one this session, but the session or two before there were, right? And you're like, hey, yeah, the website already does this. So again, kind of just educating folks. Was there one last session? I don't think so, right?
I think the year before, and it was, I think Rep. Lowen told me she introduced it at the request of one of the members of her committee. And I've forgotten which one it is, but I think it was one from the minority caucus. But you know, she supported it. We did do the task force, the working group that it asked for as a reso, and submitted a report on it. We did ask for money, which, as you've mentioned, will be really tough this session as we look at the cost of the Maui wildfires disasters impact on the state, Maui especially, but also the entire state. So it's going to be a tough session for asking for any additional resources.
They raised that, they confirmed what you're saying, Mary Alice, and we also talked about this might be a good argument for the green fee this year, because it would bring resources into our state for protecting natural, the natural environment. And we talked a lot about that. There were a lot of different proposals last year, and they settled on Senate Bill 304 was what Senator Gabbard was saying was Senator Dela Cruz's preference. So I will check on 304. I don't remember where it ended up.
Either.
There, but I think, we had asked, what were the real opposition to the green fee, because, most people we talk to, it's a good idea. So I don't know. I think the response was there wasn't a lot of opposition, but the mechanics of how the fee is collected, does it only apply to state lands? Does it not apply to county beaches, etc.? All of those logistics really need to get worked out before they can implement it. So if anybody is a logistics master and can, figure that out in the next month or so, maybe there's a chance of getting it passed this year. But yeah, those were kind of the bigger issues, was just how do they get this fee? How do they collect it? From who? Where does it go?
Yeah, I think Ron Terry should tackle that. I think he would be.
I'm a lame duck, man.
Eon.
Go ahead, Steph.
There's a pretty robust working group around the green fee. And so I would suggest that if it's an interest of ours to learn more, that we interact with that group, and maybe they could come and speak to us, or we could do it informally. But there are a lot of people putting a lot of work into this.
No, that's great. I mean, yeah, if folks are interested in hearing, we could invite somebody to provide an informational to us at our January meeting or whatnot. I don't know that we have a huge agenda. Steph, do you have a contact you can reach out to if we did want to invite them?
I did. Yeah, just let me know.
Okay. What do folks think about that? Is there interest from the council?
Yes.
That's a great idea, and I think it allows us to be a little more opportunistic / aggressive, act positive on the issue.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Steph, that working group, is that citizens, legislators, department heads? Can you talk generally about what it is?
Yeah, it's public-private, but there's a lot of
It's not on the agenda.
Oh, we could do it in February, but there's NGO input. So these are your, the Resources Legacy Fund, the Nature Conservancy, various grassroots community efforts, KUA. There is also public. DLNR and DOFA are at the table, and DAR, city and county is there, state parks, etc.
That's great. I think that diversity, hearing them talk, or someone from that group talk about what the options are, would give us a chance to at least consider it and have some conversation around it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think CI has been pretty involved in that as well, right? Jack Kittinger and
sure. Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, if we could invite them, I think we'll be moving on to scheduling, but I think January 9th is what we tentatively talked about. So if you don't mind reaching out to your contact, we wouldn't expect, everybody from the group to come, but if 1 or 2 people want to come and present, again, it's just that informational, talk a little bit about, wherever they stand and what they've been working on with respect to the green fee, and maybe what we can expect this legislative session if they have thoughts on that. That'd be great to hear.
Sure. When is our meeting in February if folks can't do the 9th?
I think we're gonna go back to, it would be February 6th. That's the first Tuesday of the month.
Okay, so Jan 9th.
Or February 6th.
Yeah. Okay. Or February 6th. Okie dokie.
Okay. Thank you. Robin, anything else?
I'm sorry, I'm changing my calendar. No, that's it. Thank you, Anana, for participating and for hearing so much better than I do and articulating it so much more clearly.
Team effort. All right. Well, that was our last substantive agenda item. So like I said, next meeting, I think at the last meeting, I think we did discuss it, but maybe we didn't, and I might have just put it on here, but we typically, the first Tuesday of January 2024 is January 2nd. Presumably, people don't want to meet that day. So I think in January, we typically push it to the second Tuesday, which would be January 9th. We can keep it on January 2nd if folks want to do that. That's okay with me, but I assume some folks don't want to do that. Are folks okay with January 9th?
Oh, no, this is Mary. I'm okay with January 9th, but I want to confirm what day we have to have our agendas in. That would be 23, December 23.
The earlier, the better, because I think we want to try to aim pre-Christmas just so that folks don't have to worry about it between Christmas and New Year's. So that is an ERP request, and if we're okay to do that, that'd be great. Now legally, we just have to have the agenda up 6 days before the meeting. So if we can't, for example, nail down somebody from the working group before whatever agenda deadline we're going to set next, we could still try to add them on as long as it's more than 6 days before because we can amend our agenda, right? But we want to make it as easy on ERP staff. And I know folks between Christmas and New Year's are not going to be focused on doing an agenda. So to that end, when do we think folks can get agendas in? I think we talked about in exemptions committee December 22nd, pre-Christmas. Is that reasonable for committee chairs? Robin, Mary, Michelle says okay.
Yes, that's fine for me.
Okay. December
Mary,
22nd. Got it.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I'm fine. I just want to be clear. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so December 22nd. Now, if we need to amend 6 days before, the 9th would be 2, 5, 6, would be January 3rd. That'd be the latest we could amend our agendas. So I'd actually ask for any amendments on January 2nd so that we can post an amendment on January 3rd.
Well, in terms of the working group, can't we just agendize that? And if it falls apart, we just defer.
Yeah, we could cancel an agenda item. We just might get a bunch of people from the public join the meeting, yeah. But yeah, I could still agendize it and just say, sorry, they're actually not coming.
Yeah, well, that happens to about 1/3 of the DLNR items, so, or BLNR, so yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on the next meeting? So annual report, we're done, not meeting in January, correct? Correct, okay. INO, you think you'll have a meeting in January?
We probably have 40% chance we will. How's that? Just because we haven't for a while, but
no problem.
We'll see.
Exemptions.
We get some great.
Yeah. Okay, strategic planning and ledge.
No, just strategic planning. That's too early for the ledge.
For ledge, okay. Sounds good. So I know who to chase down. So I know exemptions SPC for January 9th, confirming that will be the date of the meeting. And I'll confirm times, but it'll probably be regular committee times. Lastly, Mike, you asked that question about the reimbursement from the Navy. I'm going to put that on the agenda for January since that's not on this agenda. Is that okay? Yeah. Just so we're not, having discussions we shouldn't be. So we'll revisit that agenda item in January. Okay, does anybody have anything else? Please continue to recruit. I've still not received a response from boards and commissions. I'm going to keep bothering them because we're going into ledge and I need them to make appointments. And thank you again to those folks who have been recruiting their replacements. And I'm still trying to find another lawyer to take my place. So if you guys know of anybody who's interested, let me know.
Yeah, so the person that I asked too has been asking me, you know, what's happening. So, and I know she's not the only one, but I'm really trying to capture her before she,
That's
you know,
something
does some,
else.
yeah.
Understood. I'm gonna keep bothering them. So Mary Alice, if you have any direct connections at boards and commissions, let me know. I've sent them a couple of emails now and still nothing.
Yeah, unfortunately, with this new administration, I haven't met Wendy, so I don't have a good, you know, basis for following up yet.
Okay, no worries. I'll go and keep pestering them. All right, well, thank you, everybody. If you folks, I hope you have a great holiday season. I thank everybody for their participation and hard work. Looking forward to the forum next Monday, so don't forget everybody to attend that. And yeah, have a great holiday season, folks. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nana.
Bye.
Hello, everyone.
You guys.
Bye.
Bye.